The new way of life. It was a new and bright day in Konoha for one named Tracy Namikaze, the long-lost son of the Yondaime Hokage and brother to the current Hokage candidate Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki. Tracy, in truth, was a Jinchuriki of the all-powerful 11-tailed liger and also the bearer of all three Dijitsu. Tracy was discovered to be older than his brother, being conceived much earlier, about 4 years to be exact, and was 21 years old. He was 21 in age, but was 18 in looks. He was 6 feet 5 inches and 220 pounds, very muscular, and had brown skin and black hair. His face was actually like his father, but with his mother's gold and silver eyes. He also took traits from Hiruzen Tsurutobi, who his father was related to by his mother, Ru Tsurutobi Namikaze. The traits he took were hairstyle and the black outlines of his eyes. But the one thing he did not take from either his parents or ancestors was his eyes. They were the legendary Rinnegan. But it does not stop there. He also was gifted with Sharingan in its final form and its next 2 levels. And finally, the Byakugan. How he was trained, though, will be explained much later, but who trained can be explained now. For who trained him is inside of him in spirit, at least was the legendary and original god of Shinobi, the sage of the 6 paths, the father of all ninja. The other being who trained him was the 11-tailed liger, who was sealed by the sage, or Hagoromo, as he preferred to be called inside young Tracy, but that too is a story for later. His skill sets are what you call extremely well-rounded, possessing extreme strength, speed, flexibility, intelligence, cunning, and perfect chakra control. Not to mention several bloodline traits and summoning contracts. Yes, the young man has other bloodlines, one from his mother called Silver Star Release, which allow great speeds, which can reach almost light speeds if used at its highest level, and can allow almost supersonic flight. Then there was the Mokutan ability he developed from his perfect control and balancing of chakra. And finally, he is a wielder of all 5 elements and over 15 martial arts styles, some modern and ancient. And like his father, he is gifted in sealing jutsu and also medical ninjutsu. His prowess is in all things he trains in, and he perfects everything he does. So now let's get to why right now is such a good day. You see, Tracy has been training since he could walk, and that means 19 years of conditioning and training with little to no rest, and also controlling his insane powers. But for all the strength he gained, he eventually had to rest and adjust to the power increase, which means he needed to rest, which leads us to where we are now. Tracy has just awakened after 2 years of stasis and healing and also education. He was located in a special location guarded directly by the ANBU and Hokage. So as soon as he rose, he was surrounded by medics and guards who gave a thorough examination and was then escorted to the Hokage's office. Though the man he had expected to meet was long since dead, and the woman to replace him was not there either. So instead of waiting, he and his guard, which happened to be Yugao Yuzuki, and the ANBU commander Tenzo, codenames Cat and Bear. In no time at all, they found her at the village gates greeting a newly arrived Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, who was exactly like his father, and his guardian/sensei Jiraiya, the Toad Sage. The woman was also with Kakashi Hatake, Shizune, and some pink-haired girl he did not know. And then came 3 young Jin and one he recognized through some miracle as his cousin Kinomaru Sarutobi, though the other 3 he did not recognize. how the only reason he knew the others was because his training demanded he know almost everything about his comrades and enemies, so he would know how best to work with them and or eliminate them. Though for some reason he felt the information on the ninja, his brother's age, was lacking, which meant that either the third Hokage felt he knew enough and did deem it necessary, or he too was incapacitated and no longer able to provide the information. Because only 3 living people knew of his existence and abilities, as well as training, which were Hiruzen Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and a newly briefed Naruto, who was not told until after he was finished training. Now, as Tracy approached the group, he recognized the woman he was supposed to meet was none other than Tsunade, Senju, granddaughter of the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, and niece to the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju. She was royalty here. Then when Tracy got close enough to the group, he sent his escorts away saying, "I have it covered. You can go now. I appreciate your help." With his voice sounding like a young James Earl Jones, he then proceeded to watch what transpired next, and what he saw actually angered. He saw Naruto and Konohamaru transform into naked women to see if they could make Jiraiya and Kakashi pass out from a severe nosebleed, but it surprisingly did not work, which meant Jiraiya and Kakashi had grown up. But back to what made Tracy angry, he saw the pink-haired girl try to hit Naruto and the little boy, but before she could, Tracy intervened, and in a blur, the Umbu combat armor wearing ninja was in front of the pink-haired girl, now identified as Sakura Haruno, and caught the double chakra enhanced punch from Sakura, surprising everyone so much they jumped into a fighting stance, well, all except Jiraiya and Naruto, who instantly recognized him. And that was solidified when he said, "You will not hit my brother or cousin. If you do, I will have to kill you." He said, dead serious. "And if I catch you trying it again, I will keep that promise." "And who the hell are you?" she yelled, still surprised someone caught her punch and had a speedy intervention. "I am Tracy Namake's brother to Naruto, Uzumaki Namake's, and I will not tolerate any abuse directed at my family. And whoever trained should have given up their title as master. They obviously did not take to disciplining their students very well. Now I am here to meet my brother and the Hokage, so may we proceed." Tracy then looked at everyone present, but seemed to either miss or ignore Tsunade and her murderous killing intent. But apparently he did notice, because when Tsunade disappeared and reappeared in front of Tracy, swinging a wicked haymaker, but in a move thought impossible, he threw Sakura to the ground, making her a temporary non-factor and catching Tsunade's punch and breaking her entire arm. And then he threw as well onto the ground to avoid the 4 ANBU that guard the Hokage, who attacked when they saw what he had done. He then jumped over everyone. To achieve some space, Tracy proceeded to activate his Sharingan and did a few one-handed signs. He then called out wind/fire style flaming hurricane. This caused everyone to disperse and duck for cover. After the attack dispersed, Tracy proceeded to search out the chakra signatures of everyone present. When he did, he found everybody was okay except the Umbu, Tsunade, and Sakura. When he saw nobody else try to attack, he lowered his chakra and deactivated his Dijitsu. He then said to Naruto, "Brother, sorry for the display, but if this is what you go through here for speaking your mind, I want no part of this place. I am leaving fine at the estate." But before he could leave the area, 12 ANBU plus the other 4 he defeated were surrounding him, Tontos drawn. The leader then proceeded to speak. He was wearing a frog mask. He said, "You are not to leave and you are under arrest for assaulting the Hokage, and you will be charged here, and now the penalty is death. Is it now? So you will kill me for defending myself against a person who not only attacked me for speaking what I felt and defending my brother from unnecessary violence? I would like to see you try. Tracy then proceeded to unseal a titanium staff with two pikes at the end and a gold dragon handle in the middle. He was preparing to strike when Tsunade said, "Enough, he will be killed by me." "I think not, Tsunade," said Kakashi and Shizun surprisingly enough. Jiraiya then said himself, "Tsunade, you are out of line. The boy was simply defending his brother's honor and stopping your unruly student. So if I was you, I would recommend you look at his face and tell who you see and then apologize." She then looked to see his resemblance to Minato and her sensei. And then she saw something else, a look of woman she once knew, but she could not place it. "Who are you?" "I would say, but I think you know partially. And number two, I don't trust you at all nor care to tell at all who I am, so you, Sakura, and your village can go to hell." Naruto, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Shizun, and Konohamaru, and little ones, I apologize for you having to see that I am actually not inherently violent. Now, Lady Tsunade, I see you have calmed down enough. Shall we proceed to talk in your office? Yes, she said simply. She got up, sent the ENBU away, and as far as her arm, it was healed. As for everyone else, they simply followed the group, still in shock at the display of power Tracy displayed, while the Konohamaru Corps simply looked on in shock and amazement at the man who just took on the Hokage, a Chunin, and a division of ANBU and did not get a scratch. Seeing this, the three had one goal: meet him and ask for some training. They then went on to the Hokage Tower to hear what the story was on the man claiming to Naruto's brother. Upon arrival, the Hokage sat down and told Kono and his friends to leave, but was asked by Naruto since it concerned Konohamaru and in a way his team. So the conversation started like this, with Tracy saying, "Well, I guess you all are wondering who I am, and even though I told you, it should be explained. My existence was withheld because of the power I possess. It is great. It is so great, in fact, that I haven't even seen its depth. For you see, I'm the son of Minato Namikaze and Sarah Tracy. My real name is Talon Tracy Namikaze, and holds a creature created by a god who was angry at Kami for his eventual sealing, and as a result, he created the 11-tailed liger, who is more powerful than the 9-tailed fox Kurama, and the being that Kurama was made from, the 10 tails. You know, the monster defeated by the power of the sage of 6 paths. Which leads to what's next. I hold the spirit of the sage himself. That is not possible. There is no way a person could hold that power. And even if a person could, who could seal it?" Tsunade yelled. The sage himself. He was allowed to return for one day to defeat the beast on behalf of Kami, but in doing so, he had to sacrifice my mother, who was already weak from giving birth, so she died holding me, leaving me with my father. He then raised me till I was 2 years old. That's when I started to display strange abilities, which were when I awakened all 3 Jujutsu. And then that's when I was allowed to train Minato, began training me in the way of the shinobi, but even that was not long-lived. You see, by the end of the first year of my training, he married Kushina, Naruto's mother, who, when Minato told her about me, she was surprised to know he had a son. I was told by my cousin Hiruzen she was livid, saying she would leave Minato and take Naruto, who Kushina was then pregnant with him. So to appease her and keep Naruto in his life, he started secretly training, but sadly not as often as he would like. In fact, it was then I realized how selfish people could be and just how wrong being selfish was. Then it was around my birthday, which just so happened to be October 17th, that I learned that father died 7 days before sealing Kurama in Naruto, and sadly, leaving both Naruto and I alone. Then, that is when I decided to train nonstop to change the world and eventually start training my brother in controlling his burden and teach him sealing jutsus that I learned from Grandpa Hagoromo. So who trained you? Asked Kakashi. Well, after Dad, it was Hiruzen who taught me how to use my fire and earth affinities. Then came Asuma, who taught me wind-style jutsus, and then came Bear, who taught me water-style, and then a friend who I will not name taught me how to use my lightning affinity. He finished, then Sakura spoke up saying, "There is no way you could have 5 affinities. That is just not possible. It is possible if you look at history. All of it states that the sage did indeed have such powers, and since his spirit is in Talon, it makes perfect sense," stated a well-informed Jiraiya. That's right, Jiraiya. And if not for you giving me my basics in sealing jutsu, I never would have gotten to learn from Hagoromo. He was very adamant in me learning from you first. Then there was my physical training. It was the most taxing and aggressive training a man could give. The third Hokage was brutal. I nearly died on several occasions, and when I asked him why he was so harsh, he said, "Simply the enemy will be even worse than I." And thanks to Shadow Clone training and Hiruzen severe training, I mastered 15 different forms of martial arts, which I will not say, and I have over 400 jutsu combined, not to mention my other bloodlines, which I will show you all eventually. Wow, said Naruto and everyone else. Then there was Tsunade looking at Jiraiya with a hateful glare, which instead of flinching, he returned, shocking her. She then said, "It would seem that several betrayals and revelations have been aired. The betrayals are Jiraiya and Sarutobi Sensei not informing me of you, and you to Naruto. I mean, why not tell me when this happened? And when I took the mantle, I had a right to know." No, you did not, because when Talon was born, and up until he was 5, you were frequently seen and around a lot of enemy villages, and at times seen speaking with Orochimaru, a known traitor. In fact, if not for you healing and helping people and sending some reports of your doings, the village would not even trust you. Said Jiraiya, "That's not true, you bastard." "Yes, it is. If not for me, you would have been detained years ago and locked in Sanctum Prison. You're only here because Naruto had actually changed you and convinced you running away was not the answer. So save me the bullshit you keep spouting." At this, Tsunade could only look down and cry. "Well, I see what can be done about Talon being integrated in the system. Tsunade, you should take some time off and maybe even consider counseling with Inoichi," said Jiraiya. "And as for you all, dismissed until 3 p.m. meet at Training Ground 7 so that we can evaluate Naruto and Sakura. And Talon, please stay out of trouble until then." "No promises, Jiraiya-sensei. You know I like trouble, but as a favor, I won't start it, just end it." Fair enough. And so it went. Jiraiya and everyone, even Shizen, left Tsunade to her thoughts. In the center of the village, with Talon, who had decided to buy new clothes in the village bazaar, was able to purchase a unique yet familiar wardrobe, not uncommon from the clothes worn by the assassins from the Assassin's Creed series. What he now wore to replace his Umbu gear was a black jumpsuit with knee pads with spikes on the knees, a black long sleeve shirt with a dragon and eagle on the back in gold with steel plates on the shoulders and forearms and rubber elbow guards, a black and gold assassin's cloak, and finally a pair of black steel-toed boots with gold steel spikes in the front and back. And on his left hip was a wakizashi, and on his right hip another wakizashi. Both had black and red hilts and adamantium blades. And adding to his arsenal was the same custom staff he had used earlier in the day. So as of now, Talon had nothing to do, so he took out a book Jiraiya had given him. Why did he do that? Because as soon as he did, not knowing what the book even was about, or even what kind it was, and in about 5 minutes and he realized it was an erotic romance book. And about 5 minutes after that, 3 women walked by, and not just any women. These were considered 3 of the most beautiful women in Konoha. They were the Ice Queens of Konoha. The first was Kurenai Yuhi, a beautiful red-eyed, black-haired beauty who wore a white bandage dress. The second was Hana Inuzuka, who had the Inuzuka tattoos on her face and the standard Konoha Jonin jacket with a gray shirt and shorts. And finally, the standard ninja sandals. And lastly was Anko Mitarashi, the strongest and most sadistic of the 3, and she had her purple hair styled like pineapple, and finally a tan trench coat that covered her provocative mesh top and tan miniskirt. And as Talon was walking by, he was stopped when a very murderous Kurenai called out and said, "Hey you, don't you know that book is degrading to women, and that those men who read it in front of women usually get hurt in the most humiliating ways?" Then Anko, who was now beside Talon with a kunai pointed at Talon's man parts, said, "Yeah, you didn't know we take offense to that, smut." "Oh yeah. Well, why do you tolerate Kakashi reading it?" "We don't," said Hannah, who had her dogs with her growling and showing teeth. "Well, he still reads it. And so, am I so? If you 3 lonely can't keep a man, bitter bastards, don't get out of my way. You will be on your knees a place where most whores find themselves, and I know for a fact that you 3 probably don't do that often. So please don't make me keep you there," he said, grinning, still reading, not even concerned, when Anko pressed the kunai harder against his manhood. "You better take that back, you son of a bitch," said Kurenai, preparing a genjutsu. "Make me," said Talon in an arrogant tone. That was when they attacked him in force. Seeing that everyone had cleared out in a hurry when they even saw the Ice Queens coming, Talon knew he could cut loose when he saw Kurenai finish her genjutsu, saying ninja art, infinite flaming fury. And in an instant, Talon was in a tidal of searing heat and pain, but he did not panic. He simply activated and deactivated his Sharingan, effectively defeating the jutsu. And in a blink of any eye, he definitely moved to side, avoiding Anko, who had launched a grand fireball jutsu at his back. Talon proceeded to kick her in the kidneys. He then backed up and flipped over Hannah and her ninja hounds and launched 4 water bullets at each as they flew past, knocking them into Kurenai, who then hit the ground hard, apparently fracturing her ankle. Seeing that now known warrior, Talon had still not even broke a sweat and was back reading his book, the 3 women tried something else. Anko and Hannah would go for a frontal attack, while Kurenai, who was also healing her ankle, would one the few jutsu she knew that did not involve Jinjutsu, which is strong Earth-style jutsu. Implementing their attack strategy, Anko attacked straight ahead, while Hannah went to the right, and her ninja hounds went left, trying to push Talon into the trap they were setting. Seeing them coming, Talon said, "Really, that's your plan of attack?" He finished completely calm. He then adopted a stance that only a few could use, and that was the Dragon Emperor offensive stance, the first of 3 forms in the style. Seeing this, Anko began to second guess the choice of starting something with the unknown abilities of the man named Talon. But seeing no reason to stop now, she pressed on. But she got in range as well as Hannah. They regretted it when they threw the first punches. He simply threw his own, which acted as his defense. He then slid his hand down her arm, locking her wrist, and proceeded pull it down and kick in the side of her head. After that, still holding that extended right arm down, threw her into the approaching ninja hounds. After that, he jumped over Hannah, surprising her with his acrobatics, which the Dragon Emperor style was well known for, and kicked her in the back of head and right into a concentrating Kurenai, who showed her skill by summoning a clone to catch Hannah and still launched her attack, yelling. Earth style, great spiked dragon pit, which formed right. Under Talon, who simply did a jutsu as he fell to seemingly imminent death, he called out, with style, great tree of life, which made Kurenai's jutsu a hole for an extremely large flower pot. Exhausted from that jutsu, and fearing for her and her friends, she prepared for the worst. But nothing happened. She looked up, saw Talon, walked to the three ninja hounds and healed them, and gave the three ladies a chakra pill, and walk off singing a song by Zapp and Roger Heartbreaker. It was called A Song Her Parents Listened to, and singing it very well. But that was soon gone when she saw a note appear seemingly from nowhere say, I could have killed you. And another thing, I think I'll love the book. This, of course, caused Kurenai to feel angry, downright furious at losing to him and twice as humiliated. She then said, I think I hate him more than the Nine Tails. After that, she went to help her friends who were still in shock at how easily they were beaten, and to Hannah's shock fear, saw her dogs following after Talon and haste, tails wagging happily at the man who healed them. With Talon was rather proud of himself, a full-on fight with 3 Jonin Kunoichi and no collateral damage. In fact, he made the bazaar that much nicer. And if that did not make him happy enough, he seemed to have grabbed 3 new friends, the Himura brothers named Mu, Kin, and Jin, who were yipping happily with Talon's company, who was giving them treats. At the end of his momentary peace, he was disturbed yet again by an ice queen, though this one was different. It was Hannah Inazuka. She was actually smiling, saying, Hi there, sorry for about earlier. We really should not have done that. I apologize for my friend's actions. They are rather hateful to perverts. But I am not a pervert. Just because I read this book does not make me a pervert. In fact, if you read it, you would find it is actually an erotic romance with a great plot. But I find that women who hate so-called pervs are actually insecure within themselves. He said, still reading, which slightly irked her at his disregard for what she might do due to his ignoring her. She then said, but that stuff is degrading to women. It makes them look like only sex symbols and objects of lust. Have you looked at history itself? Women are objects of affection and sex due to creating life, and you can't have a child without it. And on top of that, lust is usually the first thing that hits a man and woman when they are really attracted to each other. And as you know, lust has created many children. And finally, and simply, if you have consensual sex, we all have a little pervert in us. Some are just more extreme than others, but you can't judge them without knowing them. Well, what about Jiraiya? He is actually a good person, and believe it or not, is an extreme gentleman. So don't judge a book by its cover. You might end up like a fool. Well, I guess you're right, but to why I am really here. Can I have my dogs back there? Not yours. Sure, but I think they won't stay, and you could say thank you for healing them. Thank you. And oh yeah, watch your back, Kurenai. And Anko said they would kill you for their humiliation. Thank you for the warning, but on my worst day, they could not touch me on their best. And to let you know, I only use 5% of my fighting skills. Well, you're bluffing you can't be that strong. Would you like to find out? No thanks, I believe you. Maybe I should warn Anko and Kurenai. You know they will not listen, and they're not the first. I still have Tsunade and Sakura and an entire EMBU division. So Kurenai and Anko are starting at the bottom of the list. But I have to go. I have about an hour and 45 minutes before I have to be at a meeting. Nice talking to you. And I hope you think about what I said. And with that, Talon started walking, singing the same song as before, leaving Hannah alone without a second thought. Back with Talon. Talon was walking down the street to downtown Konoha when he found three ninja talking. He instantly recognized them as Mike Guy, Aoba Yamashiro, and Hayashi Hyuga. The group just arrived from a mission and were heading to a fancy steak restaurant, which surprised Talon, who heard that Hayashi was a very how-do-you-say and stuck-up prick. Apparently, he even had friends. Seeing they were eyeing him with a sharp data gathering look, they seemed to be gauging him to see if he was a threat. Apparently, he was not, thanks to Talon quickly changing his chakra level and posture. Seeing them relax, he walked over to them and said, "Hi, I am Talon, Trace Namikaze's older brother of Naruto, Uzumaki Namikaze." He finished bowing respectfully. They then bowed in response, with Hayashi speaking and saying, "We know who you are. We saw your battle with the three Kunoichi earlier, quite the display, and we heard about your altercation with Lady Hokage and the Black Ops Division. It seems you were holding back a lot in your last fight, which is saying a lot given they were some of our top ninja. It would be an honor to have you for dinner. We could discuss your choice of your martial arts. Guy here is our greatest taijutsu specialist, and I am the Grandmaster of the Hyuga Gentle Fist, though I believe my nephew will take up that title." "Yes," said Guy, smiling brightly. "His flames of youth will burn brightly." He shouted, almost deafening the restaurant. Then Aoba spoke, asking, "So will you join us? We would like to have a guest since Gunma had to help out him with another mission." "Sure," said Talon in response, sealing away his weapons, leaving him almost formal. The group went in ordered and talked civil, and even gave a few pointers on some attacks. Talon even explained some of circumstances which caused the men to almost choke on the food they were eating. Talon then looked at the time and said he had an appointment to get to, and out of respect for the three senior ninja, he paid the bill plus told them to go for drinks later as treat. And with that, he was gone. He arrived at training ground 7 early, or so he thought. He then reached out his senses and discovered a chakra signature. Curious to who it belonged to, he went to the location and saw a beautiful woman's spiky brown hair, crazy hourglass figure, large breast and bottom, with a face that would make most men blush. He then proceeded to walk closer to her location, flaring his chakra lightly to let her know he was there. He saw she was training her taijutsu, which seemed to be Muay Thai, a style he used as well. Seeing who was there, the lady looked up and said, "May I help you, sir?" Her voice was clear and almost angelic, but held an edge that only warriors get. "Yes, you can. I was waiting on my brother and some associates for a training session. By the way, my name is Talon Trace Namikaze, and may I ask who you are?" "Tokiwa of Nandashiko Village, the home of the Amazon warriors. It is an honor. Say, would you like to grab a bite to eat later after the session? I have nothing to do and would really like to get to know you a bit better. You name the place and the time, and I will meet you there." "That would be nice. See you at 9 p.m. at the Cherry Blossom." Sounds great. See you later. Talon said, smiling. That was when Naruto appeared in an orange flash, not unlike their father was famous for. Looking at each other rather intently, they hugged each other with the Talon, saying, "Brother, is such a great day for me. I finally get to see you. I just wished I could have done this earlier." Releasing brother from the hug. Then Naruto spoke, saying, "I know, but I understand the rival villages would have tried to kill me and you for who we are and what we are, but now we are strong enough to defend ourselves in this damn village, no matter how bad it treated me. And I also want to apologize for my mother. She, in a way, kept us from meeting. But I wonder why Old Man Third kept us apart. I was told it was because of my ties to the Tracy clan and Namikaze's clan. It was something about Orochimaru spreading the secret and trying to take me for my gifts and using a Uchiha to create an army from our DNA, and all it sounds terrible. And as far as your mother, I don't like her, sorry to say, but I hold no grudges or animosity. So now that is that. Oh, and what is it with you and that woman over there? She was fine as could be. And the reason I asked is because it seems that every female you meet seems to want to fight you. Well, that would be because I simply take no shit from anyone of any gender. Hell is why my three summons like me so much. You have 3 contracts and Kekai Genkai. You really are something. And might I say that you must have some serious guts to fight Granny Tsunade, Sakura, and the AMBU Black Ops platoon. And then you fight the Ice Queens of Konoha and come out uninjured, not even a scratch. You got some serious power, and then I see you get a date with one of the prettiest women ever to walk in this village. Damn, you really are something else. Thank you, bro. It means a lot to hear you say that. And as to how you knew about my fight with the Ice Queens, I thought I sensed you out there. I really should train that ability. I am still getting used to all the chakra signatures. Where I trained, it was almost 250 miles outside the village and underground and sealed off so no chakra inside or out could be sensed. It was a pain in the ass to be alone almost every day unless you were training. And even then, it was not much talking in our conversation with Jiraiya and Dad. Though Cousin Aruzan was nice, would tell me how you were. I was always glad to hear about how you used to pull pranks and how you never quit. And to tell you this, I did all this to protect you. In fact, I was only allowed to leave here on top secret missions. And they all involved you. How do you think all those attacks from the villagers ceased? I killed the ones who ordered it, and as much I hated it, I had a hand in helping Danzo and his route to stop an outside invasion from Awagakure. It never was known what hell we went through at that battle at Mountain Valley. It was brutal cold and right at the border of Earth and Iron Country. And how do you think Jiraiya knew about Itachi Uchiha and the Akatsuki? It was because of I. In fact, it was me who they sent to make first contact with him and his partner Kisame Hashigake. As it turns out, both villages that they belonged to were curious about a powerful group of ninjas joining together in Amigakure. So with both villages needing certain factions eliminated, and a scapegoat, Kiri, chose Kisame, and Konoha chose Itachi. In reality, the acts they committed were not signs of betrayal, but a loyalty few possess. And if you're wondering how I know all this, I will just say Danzo is very thorough and inquisitive about rival villages, hence why Lord Third and Jiraiya even knew about Kisame. And as for the Uchiha massacre, you can thank Shursui Uchiha and Itachi for them finding out about the coup attempt. But why such decisions were made for the entire clan's destruction is beyond me. In all those escapades, I went on by some stroke of bad luck. I never even saw you. But that is the past, and we are brothers now, blood and bonds. Yeah, you're right. I only knew about the massacre, never knew the real reason behind it. And one last thing, because I can sense the other's approach. I want to know why you speaking so freely when you know others could hear us. That is simple enough to answer. I have privacy seals on my body that can expand about 350 feet in all directions, making what we say unintelligible. While that's almost as good as my language seal, it allows me to adjust my speech to any language and pass it on to the ones I'm talking to. Said Naruto, getting a nod of approval from Talon. It was then that Jiraiya, Kanoru, Asuma, Tsunade, Kakashi, Gai Sakura, and Akunoichi from the Sand Village. She was beautiful for spiky blonde pigtails and teal eyes. She had a great figure with ample chest and bottom and somewhat wide hips. She was well toned and had tan skin. All in all, a dream for any man. But getting back to the task at hand, Tsunade spoke, saying, "Today we will be testing Naruto, Sakura, and Talon, Naruto's older brother. We will be having Naruto and Sakura take on Kakashi, Guy, and Temari. Talon will have a battle with Jiraiya and Asuma. Since this is a test of all your skills, this isn't anything goes battle. Now, since everyone is prepared to loan, you may go first." "Thank you, my lady. Nice to see you again, Asuma. It has been a long, especially you being family. In fact, your clan and my brother are all I have as far as living family. But we could talk later. Let us begin in haste." And off he was moving at uncanny speeds, surprising everyone except Naruto and Guy, who had both seen him fighting the Ice Queens earlier that day. So seeing he was in for a challenge to loan, released his hidden weight seals to allow for full movement. He then started to channel chakra to his whole body, releasing a silver and gold aura, which happened to be the 11 Tails chakra merged with his own. Seeing this, Jiraiya went as far as to summon the Toad Elders, so he could begin channeling natural chakra. When he did, the two elders asked, "Jiraiya, boy, what you summon us for, Ma, was fixing dinner." "Yeah, Jiraiya now is going to burn, and I have to restart," said Shima indignantly. "Well, Ma, I'm sorry to mess you up, and I promise to make it up to you. Now will you please help me get to Sage Mode?" "Yes," they replied. "So, Asuma, can you buy me some time till I finish gathering the energy?" asked Jiraiya. "You got it, Master Jiraiya. I have wanted to test him since Dad died, but he was out commission. So now is as good a time as any to see what he has got." And with that being said, Asuma attacked trench knives sharpened by wind chakra. Seeing this, Talon summoned his self-made dragon-handled staff and put fire chakra into it. Talon then disappeared and reappeared in front of Asuma, staff spinning in a controlled fury, and struck down with amazing strength. Asuma, reacting like a true close-range fighter, brought a good defense, blocking the strike, and then ducking under a follow-up from the other end of the staff. Seeing this, Talon activated his Sharingan to see further his ocular sense and his awareness. And his decision paid off in abundance when he saw that Asuma, who was back in his previous position, had a habit of leaving his right to low when he attacked. So deciding to exploit that weakness, he jumped into the stance of Falcon Fist, which required extreme speed and knowledge of striking vital weak points of the body and advanced knowledge of timing. So when he steadied his Sharingan gaze at Asuma and beckoned him to attack, and he did in haste, not one to lose out so easily to a taunt, he approached at a controlled pace. And like before, when he defended against Talon's attack, he swung his left fist, and just like his defense, his offense also had the same flaw. So, capitalizing on that flaw, Talon attacked with a right kick to the side of his head, which connected flawlessly. This effectively sent Asuma flying to the other end of the training ground. After that, Asuma did an amazing maneuver which involved using his knives to grip the ground and then backflip to land safely. But his relief ended there for Talon was unleashing a massive phoenix flower and wind bullet combination, which made the volleyball-sized fireballs into the size of grand fireballs, and it was 10 in all. But just before they could make contact, Asuma used the replacement jutsu and then launched several dozens of wind blades at Talon, who then stopped his approach and did a few one-handed seals, and then called out water style, extreme tidal wave. And with that set a wave of water covering almost half the training field in torrent of super fast water. That was when Asuma prepared the seals for a massive wind style, great breakthrough, which provided him with time to actually slice away a hole in the water wave with a wind blade to escape. But when he did, Talon anticipated such a move and was right in front of him, chakra infused into his punch. Asuma, seeing no way out, prepared for defeat, but was saved just in the nick of time by a sage, empowered Jiraiya, who took on the brunt of the attack in his own left hand. After he caught it, he threw Talon back a great distance, but not without great effort. To Jiraiya, it was a great shock at how strong his punch was because it was stronger than Tsunade's and thrice as fast, and the last surprise was that it broke his hand in Sage Mode. But Jiraiya was not worried about the break, since Sage Mode would fix it. Back to the battle at hand, Jiraiya said, "Pa, and Ma, give me some oil and some wind you to Asuma. I will give the flame." When it was given, he then called out and said Toad style, Super Toad Flame Wall, and oh my, was it a wall, in fact more akin to a sea of fire. Seeing this, Talon activated his Rinnegan and called out Almighty Push, which shielded him from the blast, but the others could not see that. In fact, Guy and Kakashi were looking worried, but in a surprising statement, it was Tsunade who spoke up saying, "He is fine. When I fought him before he showed, he could be very resourceful, not unlike Minato, Naruto, and Saratobi-sensei. I believe he is just beginning to show what he can do, so Naruto, you better watch out, because if he gets the respect of the population, he may take the hat. I doubt it, that's not his dream, and besides, if anything, he will help me achieve it. And was it not you who said that when I returned and proved my skills and did a few more recognizable missions that you would push my name further up the chain of command and straight to the Fire Daimyo?" "Yes, I did, but she was stopped mid-sentence when Talon cleared the entire field in what looked like one step and landed in front of Jiraiya and a clone behind Asuma, each landing a wicked roundhouse kick that sent the two flying into each other. After that, he called forth his twin swords and enhanced them with lightning chakra. He then sent several high-voltage strikes at the recovering duo, but it did not work because Ma was able to summon forth a powerful wind wall that deflected the lightning. Seeing his attack fail, he decided to go and use the taijutsu approach once again, but before he could, he saw Jiraiya and Asuma each do the summoning jutsu. What appeared from the smoke surprised him. In front of him were a 15 feet tall white and black elk introduced as Blitz, and beside him a massive toad summons named Tien. Tien was yellow with teal camouflage-like patterns on his back and carried two battle axes. Blitz then spoke to Asuma in a tone almost arrogant and very deep-toned, saying, "Why have you summoned me here? is this little punk giving you trouble? Then came Tien, asking Jiraiya the same question, saying, Yes, Jiraiya, why have you called me? When you have the elders here, they should be sufficient in assisting you. Well, he said seriously, the young man in our presence is the son of Minato, an older brother to Naruto, and he holds great power. So great, in fact, I need to hold nothing back. So forgive me if you think I insult your power. Now, please, let's get going. Jiraiya said seriously, then Asuma said to Blitz, Will you assist me? He is extremely strong in elemental manipulation, and if we want to win this, I'm going to need your gifts of the night winds to supplement my own. Very well, Asuma. I see that he is quite strong, replied Blitz. And with that, Asuma charged forward, Blitz leading the charge, and following him was a tornado. Seeing this, Talon summoned his two swords once again and sped past Jiraiya, who was already preparing an attack, which caused Jiraiya to overshoot Talon, who was in the process of cutting the tendons on the back of the hopping Tien. The plan worked perfect. Talon then summoned forth two Rasengan in his hands, which he learned from Jiraiya when he was training in the sealing arts. He then used his Rinnegan gravity manipulation to hold himself in midair, allowing him to slam the two orbs of chakra into Tien, throwing him clear out of training 7 and into the nearby lake. Talon then disappeared in a wave of pure speed and revealed himself behind Asuma, who was able to sense him thanks to Blitz, and boy was he glad, because he just managed to duck under Talon's roundhouse kick. Seeing the kick missed, Asuma struck up and nailed Talon clean in the sternum, thus causing him to lose his breath temporarily and cause him to bleed from his mouth. But for Talon, his misfortune continued when he received a massive strike in the same place from Jiraiya. Reeling back, he was sent crashing into the lake, where a recovered Tien grabbed him with his tongue. This, of course, immobilized him, but that was temporary because Talon began to channel his fire nature into every portion of his body, effectively burned Tien and his huge tongue. But it did not stop there for Tien, because unleashed a massive almighty push, which actually sent Tien back to the Toad Realm. He then switched to his Byakugan to survey the area. He quickly found Jiraiya and Asuma collaborating for a jutsu. He remembered studying from the library of Danzo. He recognized every hand seal. It happened to be the signature jutsu of Madara Uchiha and his brother Izuna. It was called Fire/Wind Style, Great Fire World Annihilator. And when they called out the attack, it was huge and enhanced by Ma and Blitz and Pa, who added oil to the attack. Seeing this, Talon brought both hands together, saying, Wood Style, Extreme Protection Dome, which of course shocked all but 2 people. At this point, Talon then brought forth his staff and disappeared underground, and behind his opponents he then called out Lightning Style, Explosive Destruction Wave, which effectively shocked everyone in an almost complete unconsciousness, leaving only Jiraiya awake thanks to his now depleted Sage Chakra. Holding his staff, still charged with lightning at Jiraiya, saying, Surrender, you have been defeated. He then saw Jiraiya raise his hand in submission. Looking over his shoulder, he saw the look of shock on everyone's face minus Naruto, who was smiling since he had accomplished the same feat of defeating Jiraiya in a sage versus sage battle. It ended up destroying half a valley, and both were seriously injured and took days to recover. Talon, seeing he had won, was happy, because he showed his brother that he could protect him and showed those present that he was not to be trifled with. In fact, Sakura was downright worried, because she realized that she dodged a bullet earlier that day. Seeing this, Tsunade declared him the victor and granted him full rights of a Konoha ninja plus elite Jonin status. Talon then said, "Thank you, Lord Fifth. It is an honor to be a part of and protect the village of my father and brother. And Naruto, please do win in style. I mean, it is hard to compare to me, but please try. You got a big brother." Naruto said, smiling. "So ready, Sakura and Kakashi-sensei, and you Two-Guy-sensei and Temari." "Of course we are ready, and to make it interesting, we will buy you lunch for a week if you beat us in 3 hours." "Aligbet," Naruto and Sakura said in unison. And with that, the fight was on. Chapter 2, Naruto and his test. With Naruto just witnessing his brother's near flawless battle against his teacher and the son of the third, so he knew he had to shine, but sensing Sakura looking at him like he was still the weak genin she used to hit, he said, "Sakura, don't look at me like that anymore. I'm not some pushover you can just kick around when you are upset. I am a warrior and a ninja of Konohagakure, and you will see what I am capable of right now. You still can't beat Sasuke, and you definitely can't keep a promise. To hell with that promise. And you want to know something? When I see Sasuke, he is a dead man, and trust me when I say this, I really owe him for the Chidori to the chest," he said, almost snarling. "Well, you deserved it. Don't think I don't know about you using the Kyuubi's chakra in the fight. You really are a monster who needs to be controlled. But that is for later. Are we going to fight these two or not?" She finished smirking, thinking she won that discussion. "No, we won't be doing anything together, because you'll be tied up for a while." He then summoned out of nowhere a wall of chakra chains that tied her up and pulled her straight to the ground. "Now, call for Sasuke. See if he will get you out of this." He then flashed away like his dad used to, leaving us screaming and surprised Sakura. Naruto then found a very upset Kakashi Hitaki, who said, "What the fuck? Naruto, are you crazy? You just attacked a fellow ninja, and no matter what she said, you should not have done that. It was not right. Even if she said all that, you still should have maintained control." "Maybe so, but I did not harm her, and she will be fine. But you know as well as I do, she would have tried to sabotage me in the end anyway. So spare me the lecture," Naruto said, making Kakashi put his head down, almost as if in shame. Naruto then decided to skip the rest of the talk and get straight to business by attacking the 3 Jonin, which surprised him because he used the Hiraishin, which made him disappear even faster than Talon did. And that was saying a lot considering Kakashi could barely see Talon with his Sharingan activated. And then he could not copy a thing. In fact, it was like Talon was Ghost. And if that was the case, then Naruto was simply air itself, since Kakashi could find no trace of him at all. Then like a bullet, Naruto appeared out of nowhere with an unknown Rasengan variant that seemed to be a swirling ball of fire and wind. His Sharingan only solidified that, and when Naruto called out Flaming Hurricane Rasengan, which seemed to double in size in its incoming approach. This, of course, caused Kakashi to substitute and take a shock guy in Temari. What they saw next left them flabbergasted at the sheer amount of destruction the attack produced. It literally caused everything around the blast radius to either decay or simply turn to ash. Over in the clearing was a proud Talon who said to a fully recovered Jiraiya and Asuma, "Man, he is just like Dad, a true genius, though from the reports I received from Hiruzen was that he was a real handful. When I asked him about why he did not train him, or give him tutors to expedite his development. He said he could not because the council had outvoted him on the situation and they feared his increase in strength would give the QB's influence over. Fucking idiots. And when I suggested that he allow me to show myself, he shot that down to saying it was bad enough I was helping Danzo, though I was using a different name and pretty much playing as his personal juggernaut. This made me in a way Naruto's outside defense against Dad's enemies. Of course, since these missions were all black ops, which made the village non-accountable for anything. It was not until just before I went into my 2-year stasis that I even told Danzo who I was, due to the fact that he was willing to help me protect my brother, even if it was to protect him as a weapon of the village. Though I later found out from Hiruzen that Danzo put his trust in me and that I was a true shinobi doing what I had to do to keep Konoha on top of the food chain, and that I was actually better than his best root ninja, who happened to be the only two that were not brainwashed. But back to what I was saying, he said that I could show and disappear when I got ready and could adapt to any culture, something Hiruzen and Yuta Jiraiya taught me very well. But back to my brother, he is a visionary. He sees things so different, yet when he explains it to you, you just understand. It sounds just like Dad. That is true, he really is like his father, but look, he just disappeared again. Said Jiraiya, who pointed to where Kakashi and his team were recovering after Naruto launched a massive great breakthrough at them. If not for Temari, using one of her own, the group would have been in the village center. Looking back at the field, Talon saw his brother right behind Kakashi and landed a wicked axe kick right to the skull, which almost caused Kakashi to fall straight down, only to caught by Guy, who just dropped his weights, and later recovering Kakashi in the protection of Temari, who was still trying to time Naruto's movements, but like his original title, he was unpredictable and hard to read, and the Sharingan could not do what she knew she couldn't, but that did not mean she would quit. So she began swinging her fan, creating massive wind blades that cut down every single tree in the clearing, which cut off Naruto's places to hide. Seeing what she was doing, Guy began to unleash the inner gates, and when he did, he began to change. His muscles expanded and his veins became more pronounced. And finally, his skin began to change, as well as the aura that surrounded him. It was green bordering on blue, hence his nickname. When he got to the 5th gate, he attacked. Right when Naruto revealed himself, Guy struck hard, hitting Naruto from across the entire clearing, but apparently not hard enough because Naruto flashed away again and flashed back again, right in Guy's face, landing a huge left hook to his face, which was then followed up by a kick to the jaw. Then Naruto suddenly stopped and looked at Guy, who was still standing amazingly enough. Then with a look between the two, they nodded in understanding. The understanding was really asking permission from each other to engage in a strict hand-to-hand fight. This without words, both agreed. Then Guy dropped into the stance of the strong fist, and Naruto dropped into the stance of Toad, which he was very proficient. The Toad style was very acrobatic and involved a balance of offense and defense, and even swordsmanship, and it was enhanced by Sage Mode, which Naruto was already using thanks to him having seals with which he stored the natural energy. So now everyone would see which was best, the 8 gates or Sage Mode. With that said, they engaged each other with savageness not unlike animals. It was give and take the entire fight. When Guy threw a punch, Naruto would deflect with his own, and when either kicked, it was the same, but Naruto knew Guy was trying to do, and that was by time for Kakashi. And he still had a watch for Temari. And it was good he kept watch of her, because out of nowhere a ferret with a sickle came spinning and throwing slicing winds at Naruto. And that was when Naruto upped his game by using his chakra chains to wrap around him like a shield, and it worked. And seeing as how the fight with Guy was interrupted, Naruto summoned a sickle and chain, but not a normal of no, it was the very one used by Hanzo the salamander. Naruto found it just outside the borders of Amage Cure in a chest. As it turned out, it held all of Hanzo's weapons and armor. It seemed to have been just thrown away, in fact. The mask he wore and the armor were augmented by Naruto to fit him. But the only thing you could see him wearing were the armor, for you see the mask was used for underwater missions and when fighting known poison experts. But back to the battle. Everyone who the privilege of knowing who that weapon had belonged to was shocked and in awe, especially when Naruto showed his gift in wielding it. Naruto then enhanced it with wind and fire chakra, making it a weapon to be feared. Seeing his opponents distracted, he engaged, and in blur of speed, he was in the presence of Guy, and he swung his sickle in a wide arc, creating a blade of fire and wind. But Guy was no fool and dodged in haste. After that, Guy summoned his famed trichucks and swirled and spun them at such high speeds the friction caused about flames to erupt. Seeing this as his chance, Kakashi also summoned his father's white Fong short sword and then enhanced it with lightning chakra. He then proceeded to attack, and all three began to show their true prowess in the weapons they chose to master. It was a sight to see because when Guy would strike at Naruto, he had to dodge several slashes from said opponent. Then came Kakashi, who was faring a bit better than his friend due to his Sharingan. But even so, it was a long battle to be involved in, especially when your special jutsu is also a weakness when used for a long period of time. Seeing he was occupied, though, Temari decided to do her part in taking down Naruto by unleashing a wave of wind that was refined to be as sharp as a katana, but that was short-lived because a clone of Naruto was instantly behind her and struck her pressure points on her neck, thus knocking her out. And with the real Naruto being successful in holding back Kakashi and Guy, he jumped back and said lightning style, Rasengan spear, which in his hand was a Rasengan spinning at high speeds and protruding from it a twirling bolt of lightning, which gave of the sound of storm. Seeing his attack complete, he threw it at the two so fast it broke the sound barrier and caused a massive sonic boom. The attack was a strong one, and when it made contact, it shocked and burned everything in 25 feet radius. But that was the attack scaled down tremendously. After that, Naruto flashed beside the two unconscious Jonin to check on them. Seeing they were okay, he sent a clone to carry Temari over by her squad mates and said, "Hey Talon, can you heal the three? I saw the tablets you gave the others earlier today, but I don't think they will work on injuries as severe as the ones Kakashi and Guy have." "Sure thing. They really put you through your paces and you put them through theirs. But what makes you think I can heal them?" "I received your dossier, and Old Man Third said your prowess in medical ninjutsu was as great as the first Hokage." Naruto said, smiling. "That's not possible," yelled a free Sakura and a shocked Tsunade, both in denial at this astounding revelation. But it got worse from there when Sakura saw Kakashi knocked out and laying prone on the ground. She immediately lashed out at Naruto, saying, "You son of a bitch, how dare you hurt Kakashi-sensei? I knew you were a monster, you and that brother of yours." She shouted with her fist drawn back, and in front of Naruto, throwing her fist at Naruto only for it to be caught, and then smashed, and I mean smashed across the face, and then flogged in the stomach. Throwing her clear into the arms of an unsuspecting Tsunade, who was as shocked as everyone who knew Naruto that he struck Sakura so viciously, and what he said next shocked almost everyone even further. And to everyone who witnesses this, the same can happen to you. It means nothing to me anymore on what this village thinks of me anymore. I have a soul, and if anyone tries to harm me or a person precious to me is a dead man, and trust this is no wonderland. Naruto finished walking over to his brother who had just finished healing Guy, and Kakashi, saying to the now conscious pair, "Great fight. It was truly one to remember and learn from." Say, how about we get everyone together for a reunion, say tomorrow around 7, and we can introduce everyone to my brother. Said Naruto. Kakashi replied saying, "Awesome idea, but what about Sakura?" Talon suddenly spoke up saying, "I doubt she would show up in Naruto. If I were you, I would look into a possible team change, see if you, and I plus the one you named Niji, and maybe that man named Gunma Shinroi, we could definitely complement each other's abilities." Talon said, "Yes, that is feasible," said Tsunade, liking the idea of a strike force good at all areas of fighting. Then Jiraiya said he could provide them with information on high-priority targets like corrupt generals, daimyos, and business tycoons, not to mention using them as guards for council members and other high-ranking diplomats. And finally use them as a first response team for search and rescue and search and destroy missions. Liking the idea, Tsunade then sent Shizen to handle the preparations for said arrangements. Then came what to do with the person who caused such needed arrangements, one Sakura, Haruno. I guess we will send her to the ENBU prison since what she did was high treason. Attacking a fellow shinobi is almost unforgivable, but I think the decision should lay with Naruto. Said a still disappointed Tsunade. Send her to Ibiki and Anko. And after that in Oichi, I believe she knows something about Sasuke and Orochimaru. Said Naruto. Why would you think that? She has not even had any outside missions except a few, and those took her through Rice Town. Tsunade trailed off with a now shocked look on her face, which made Naruto say, "See what I am saying? Something is wrong." "A and B, you get out here now," shouted Tsunade in rage at what damage her apprentice may have caused Konoha. She then calmed down when Talon said, "Do not worry about it, Lord Hokage. If she is a traitor, she will be dealt with as such." He said, watching the ENBU take away Sakura in haste. He then said, "Now if you will excuse me, I have a date with a most interesting woman and will meet you all tomorrow." He said, preparing to leave, when Tsunade said, "Wait," reaching for 2 scrolls on her left hip and tossing them to the brothers, saying, "Congratulations, Sanins of Konoha. I think it is time to pass on the title to someone new, but I do not plan to add a 3rd to the group. That will be your decision to make. Oh, and by the way, the party will be my treat, and at the Lake Plaza at 7 p.m. sharp, dress casual." And with that, everyone left except the Namikaze brothers, who just stared at the destruction they caused when looking. Talon laughed almost hysterically, saying, "I feel bad for our enemies who challenge us. I can see now, even holding back only about 45 or 50 ninja are alive today, could challenge us at full strength. And the bad thing is I feel we will meet an enemy of strength on even grounds as our own or stronger. I believe you, but I pray that day never arrives. I agree. See you tomorrow then at 6 a.m. I am sure we will have to discuss getting our inheritance and the businesses our father owned. I will keep those, but I have a shipping company you helped stop from taking over a port in the land of tea. Oh, you must mean Gatto's shipping company and his sub-business dealing in weapons manufacturing. I see what you need. You need me to deal with the outside business, so the council does not try to take over the basically open lease on the business. But I wonder, how have you been doing so all this time? Jiraiya has been feeding the idiots on the council false information, but I will tell you more tomorrow in private. You do have a date, after all. And off they went to handle their business, with Talon about 5 minutes before daytime. Waiting for his date, he arrived 5 minutes ahead of time, saying to himself, I cannot believe my first day awake, and I am on a date. I really am like Dad and Old Man Hiruzen. Talon thought, laughing at how many dates his father and cousin used to have. Then came his attire. Talon was wearing a black Armani suit with gold stitching and tie with black gator shoes with gold tips. And as far as his eyes, he had deactivated his dojutsu, opting for their natural gold and silver color, with the left being silver and the right gold. Just when it was time for Tokiwa to arrive, she appeared in a whirl of wind, smiling brightly. Her usual stoic demeanor completely gone, and she was dressed to the nines in red strapless dress that hugged her curves perfect, with a split down the left from her thigh to her ankle. And to finish the look, diamond studs and some black high heels and silver necklace with a rose-shaped pendant. Seeing her, he said, Greetings, Tokiwa. You look absolutely wonderful. It makes the beautiful night sky dull in comparison. I do hope we enjoy each other tonight, he said, bowing out of respect. Well, I must say you're looking rather handsome yourself. I am glad you asked me out. So are you hungry, my friend? She asked happily. Absolutely, let's go, shall we, and get to know each other better. And then they went surprisingly hand in hand. They were seated immediately thanks to dropping Jiraiya's name. When inside they saw it had a Japanese modern-day core with a traditional feel to it. And then there was the food. It was sight to behold, all kinds of steaks and seafood, as well as noodle dishes. And the desserts looked divine. And don't forget the sake. With that being seen, after looking over the menu, Talon and Tokiwa ordered. Talon went with 2 T-bone steaks, 2 lobsters, and the house ramen, along with 2 bottles of their most expensive sake. Tokiwa got ordered sweet and spicy shrimp and chicken with the house ramen, and 2 bottles of wine, 1 red and 1 white. The order shocked the waiter, but not entirely, because most ninja could eat heavily due to their training habits. But what shocked him was the amount of alcohol they were about to ingest. Between the 4 bottles of wine, all being from the stocks of toads of Mount Mayaboku, it was indeed strong stuff. But it was none of his business, and he went to place the order. With them finally alone at the far end of the restaurant, Talon asked, What brings a ninja of Nandashiko village here to Konoha? The answer surprised him thoroughly. You are, or I should say, I am your betrothed. Not that I am upset, but how did you know about me, and who told you about me? Your father Minato and the 3rd Hokage. They decided that you needed a strong first wife to bear your children and stand by you when needed. So after many families in my village put forth their most skilled kunoichi, and in the end at 5, I was the winner, and then trained in the ways of the ninja, even further, as well as in the ways of raising a family, and giving support and love to a husband. While this is amazing, apparently fate has deemed it necessary we meet now instead of later. Oh, and by the looks of things, I will need your help, and not just by having a family, but building a legacy for our future grandchildren and nephews and nieces. And what do you mean, first wife? Are you saying I need multiple wives? Precisely, you will need three more wives, as will your brother. And please choose wisely. She said, smirking, but it shocked her what he said next. If I am to do this, it will be love that makes a decision on who I am with. As far as you go, I appreciate you explaining this to me, but you're my only betrothal. I will deny any others. But you I will love, and I feel it will not be hard. He finished, leaning over the table, kissing her rather passionately, making Tokiwa blush. But the moment had to end eventually because the waiter had arrived with their orders. And the rest of the night went rather nice, with the two placing a privacy seal around them, and they began swapping stories, both personal and mission related. Talon even showed her his true eyes. This caused her to nearly pass out in surprise. But like all good things, it had to end, and being a gentleman, Talon offered to walk her home. But to his surprise, she said no and asked could she go to his place. He did not turn her down, but made it clear nothing more intimate than holding each other in bed would happen till much later. Tokiwa was actually extremely impressed. By the morning, both were in bed, holding each other intently, till an alarm went off, and a smiling Naruto was at the door, saying, "Wake up, big bro stud master, I see you work fast." Yeah, whatever, but nothing happened, not until we get to know each other better, but I believe it will happen. Now for intros, Tokiwa meet Naruto, Naruto meet Tokiwa. Now that is established it early, and I must shower, eat, and then follow my simpleton brother to make some important arrangements. Tokiwa, since we are to be married, you should hear this information. So went rather quickly shower, eat, and make their way to the Hokage's office. But on the way, Talon was called to his mindscape, a place he went to only when needed or of times of great importance. Sitting in a vast mountain valley sat Hagoromo and the massive Liger of the 11 Tails. Seeing him approach, Liger spoke, his silver and black fur glistening and massive tails swaying gently in the breeze of the mountains, said, his voice gentle yet filled with pride. You are growing strong, and in a few years will have full control of my powers, and I believe you will be unlocking the abilities of the sage by using yin and yang chakra to create life, well, not quite to his level, but making things like weapons and enhancing your Mokutan abilities to a level you could transform an entire landscape. But that too is a long ways away. So be prepared for even more training. Luckily, you will not need stasis. Liger finished. He is speaking the truth, and if you continue on this route of growth, you just might create the peace I desired and your first Hokage desired. Just maintain or increase this production. I am proud of you, my friend. But I am afraid a test is approaching you and will pit you against enemies unknown, but that is a ways away as well. But they will be allying with the elemental nation's one common enemy. Hagoromo said, a bit worried. Akatsuki, but why do you sound worried? You will not be fighting them, and I am you in many ways, so trust in my strength and me personally. After all, you did help train me. Well, I will trust you, and I am not worried so much as I am concerned. For you see, I have grown fond of you, child. I've begun to see you as the grandchild I never knew. So in short, I care about you, boy. Hagoromo said, smiling. As do I, said Liger. And my real name is Khan, like the warrior Genghis Khan. How do you think he got his name? Khan finished, grinning, all his teeth sharp as katanas. Well, thank you, may I leave now? Getting a nod from the two, he vanished and was back to the outside world. Seeing his expression back to normal, Naruto asked, "How was the conversation? It must have been pretty serious for those two to call you." "It went well," the old sage said. "He saw me as his grandson, and Liger told me his real name." But more importantly, the two spoke of impending ally to the Akatsuki, how strong, or how many I do not know. Just tell Jiraiya and Tsunade. I will find Danzo and see if he knows something about another faction of ninja or a desperate village. But one thing we must all do is keep this quiet till we know what we are dealing with. Got it. Two affirmative nods, and they were walking to the tower. In about 30 seconds, they were knocking on the door. With the command they received, they entered the room, seeing Kakashi, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Shizune, and finally a man Naruto knew very well from his time as a genin. It was Tizuna of Wave Country, who dressed himself in the silks of the daimyo of his native land. Seeing everyone present, Tizuna said, "I have business with the Namikaze brothers in conjunction with trade agreements between 3 companies. The first is Naruto's real estate, and the second is the Uzumaki Merchants Guild. And finally, I have business with Talon Shipping Corporation in regards to handling shipping from the Leaf Village and Wave, as well as the coast of Sunagakure and Kumogakure. Though the dealings with Kumo are strictly between Wave and the Cloud. We simply wish for the use of 5 cargo cruisers," said Tizuna. "Very well," said Talon. "And to the last 2 reasons I am here to drop off a rather hefty sum of money, which is why I hired some of the Jonin here and some from Sunagakure. It was worth it too. But back to the reason I came, I have in these 3 scrolls $35 million in scroll number 1, $25 million in scroll number 2, and finally $75 million in scroll number 3. The first 2 belong to Naruto and the last to Talon. These are the profits from the past 2 years. Congratulations to the 2 of you. Oh, and by the way, I heard about that incident with the Uchiha kid, and I am here to tell you our samurai have been trained by Mifune himself in the Land of Iron, and are skilled and will be watching the borders closely for him. And if we find anything, we will let you know," Tizuna said with a strong conviction. But seeing his business concluded with the young men, he said he would return later that evening, getting an affirmative nod from Tsunade. Then came time to speak with the council, though the boys did not know it was a meeting, but Talon found a way to avoid such a meeting by saying, "Lady Tsunade, do really wish to waste time and resources on a meeting that could be handled with a dossier of, let us say, 25% of Naruto's and my abilities, and in the meantime, you can allow Naruto and I to meet our team and take time to acclimate ourselves to each person and their individual skills, thus making this time more productive." Talon finished knowing he got his point across, and Tsunade, liking the idea, agreed to it, and had Shizune and Jiraiya fill out the documents while she completed the paperwork for the inheritance for both brothers. An even 50-50 split of $300 million. Much to the surprise of everyone present, even the recipients. Which of course led to the fainting of Naruto and Shizune and a happy Talon who could not stop singing the song. No apologies by Yaz and Jussie Smollett. Which basically said, do not feel bad about what you say, do, or have in life. After a few minutes, everyone recovered, especially when Ibiki and Anko entered with Ibiki speaking and Anko glaring daggers at Talon, who ignored her completely. But back to Ibiki, who said, "Lady Hokage, we have discovered that Sakura Haruno has indeed been helping one Sasuke Uchiha, and is maneuvering his way in and out of Rice Country and around the outskirts of a land of fire, and is responsible for the deaths of the ANBU team you had as a guard detail for her in the land of Rice. So in short, she is a traitor to the highest degree. It is all here, and Inoichi can verify this as well. I am sorry to have had to tell you this, but it is my job. As far as I can tell, she only knows the locations in Rice Country and on the borders of our own fire country to the east. I see. For now, keep her detained and chakra sealed off and have her watched all day, every day. Make sure her guard is ENBU. Tsunade said seriously, though hurt deep inside, as well at the thought of her fallen apprentice. She then said, "Now, Anko, you stay. I have to speak with you about a mission with Delta Squad, our new strike team, and first response team. It was finalized yesterday. It consists of Naruto, Niji, Genma, and finally Talon. You are to assist them when they need a reserve. This will be a part-time job for you, as well as for Aoba, Shino, Hinata, Hana, Kiba, Rock Lee, and on occasion you Kakashi and Tokiwa." Tsunade finished. But after hearing everything, Anko spoke up saying, "With all due respect, I would prefer not to do this, because to put it simply, I do not like perverts. Kakashi I have known most of my life, and I still don't like his choice of literature. And the same goes with Talon, who had the nerve to read it out in public, seeing 3 women walking his way, a total sign of disrespect." Hearing enough, Talon spoke up calm, as usual, saying, "Well, I knew you were dumb, especially when you openly attack an unknown, but I did not take you for a hypocrite as well. Trust will know your story, but I did not know if it was true or not. But I see you fit the bill. And what you call perverted is actually a really good read, and if you researched a bit, you would find it sells heavily to both sexes. And what gives you the right to make a person not exercise the right to free will, especially in their home village? Is it because the villagers hurt your little feelings because of Orochimaru's betrayal, or is it because of your little binge in the village, sleeping around with every man and woman you got drunk enough to lay with us, making people see you as the whore of Konoha? Don't fuck with me because you hate yourself. And as far as perverts go, you are the damn queen. You got more notches in the headboard than even Jiraiya, so spare me the holy than the routine." Talon finished Eternal Mangekyo blazing in its final form with its bullseye center and 6 katana attached to the outside with a rare black background. Seeing this shocked Anko and made her take a step back out of fear, because she now knew what could have happened to her if he had went all out. But what she did next was completely out of character. She bent down to one knee and asked for Talon to accept her apology, which of course he did. For you see, he did not hold grudges very often, and he did not dislike Anko. In fact, he was impressed with her to a great degree. With that cleared up, Tsunade finished her meeting and asked Talon could she speak with him in private. Of course he agreed and sat down in one of the chairs in front of the desk, while she herself stood looking out the window when he heard her ask, "How did you use my grandfather's jutsu?" "Well, it was quite simple, really. Once I master my earth and water affinities to master levels, and plus with my Rinnegan granting the perfect chakra control BAM, I was able to achieve Mokutan. It still took a while to master it, but in another 3 to 4 years, I will be able to subdue multiple Biju at once, not unlike Hashirama did years ago." So, are you saying anyone can do it? Well, in theory, yes. But is it feasible? Hell no. Because in order to do it, you must have equal levels of affinity for earth and water, as well as an extremely high life force. So it takes a lot to obtain it. I see. Well, thank you for keeping my grandfather's legacy alive and in the public eye. And now to the second reason I called you here. I have just received word that Kazakage Gara of the desert has been captured by Akatsuki Sasori of the Red Sand and Deidara, the Demolition Man. I just received this message about 5 minutes before you arrive, but I could not have just anyone knowing. You are leader of this mission with Naruto being second in command. I have Niji and Gunma on standby at the gate entrance, and Naruto is aware meet them in 5 minutes. She finished dead serious. Yes, my lady, I can go now. I am always packed, as is Naruto from what he told me, but may I make a request? Of course. Is Kiba Inuzuka available? His senses would be beneficial to the mission. Talon said finally. Well, I can get you Kiba, but you have to do me a favor. And what is that? You have to be my personal bodyguard until Naruto is appointed Hokage, or you are not assisting Delta Squadron. She said knowing Talon was probably the strongest in the village. You got a deal partially anyway, but you must let me take you out upon my return so we can get rid of this bad blood we created yesterday. Deal. Deal, she replied, smiling, shaking his hand rather gently, and then she surprisingly kissed him on the cheek, sending a little jolt of excitement through Tsunade, who was surprised she had just done that. Well, Tsunade, it would do me a lot better if you placed the next one on my lips. He smiled like a devil, and surprisingly enough, she did, saying, of course I will, but just this once. She leaned in with Talon in sync with her, and boom, fireworks were in effect, but it was interrupted by a very surprised Kinomaru who said, you lucky bastard, I always wanted to do that to her, but I was told to come back in a few years. But now I guess it will remain a dream. He finished dramatically, making the somewhat disappointed Tsunade laugh at him, before saying herself that it was time for Talon to head out. And in no time flat, he was at the gates meeting Naruto and the squad orders in hand. He then spoke up, introducing himself to Niji and Gunma, and then said, well, everyone, we seem to be all here except for Kiba Inuzuka, who should meet us in exactly 3 seconds. And appeared he did, seeing who it was. Kiba could not help but grin and said, so you're the man known as Talon who defeated my sensei and her friends, the legendary Ice Queens. Well, I have one thing to say to you. And that is what? You are a man among men. To defeat the best Jinjutsu user in the village, and my sister, and not to mention the Snake Mistress. But I digress. You called for me personally for this mission. What am I needed for, sir? Kiba stated formally in accordance with the respect of the chain of command. Talon then told him, well, you see, I have the strong belief that it will be his scent that will allow us to find our target. Gara of the desert is the one we are looking for and sent to recover. And we need every advantage we can get. Hence why I called for you, Kiba. You and Akamaru, as it stands, are the ones who will most likely find him. So any questions about what we are to do on this mission? Yes, I have one, said Gima, getting a go-ahead nod from Talon. He asked, what or who has Gara in their custody, and who would be strong enough to even capture him? Gima finished. The ones responsible work for Akatsuki, and there as follows: Sasori of the Red Sand and Deidara, the Demo Man. Both dangerous and should be approached with caution. Also, we will more than likely meet Temari on the way, since she left late last night. Now, a move out we head for Sunagakure. Talon said, jumping into the trees, ready for anything they would discuss formation when they reached the border. And they were running at lightning speeds, and at breakpoints discussed each other's skills. Of course, Talon told them everything except about his summoning contracts with the Dragon, Bear, and Liger clans, and about the abilities of the Renegade. In the long 3-day travel, they finally arrived at the border. On the way, they ran into Tamari, who was very distraught at the news of her little brother. But Talon reassured her they would retrieve him safe and sound. It took them another hour to make it to the village, where they were quickly ushered into where the hospital was located. As it turned out, Kankuris engaged Sasori, but was quickly defeated and poisoned, but in the process managed to get a piece of fabric from the cloak of Sasori, and thus had the scent of said man, giving it to Kiba and Akamaru, so they could track the scent and quickly, because the assailants had a head start. The duo was about to leave with an eager Niji and Gunma when Naruto stopped them and handed each of them a Hirashin Kunai so they could summon the two brothers when they found Gaara or ran into an enemy too strong for them to handle by themselves. Because while the three Konoha ninja handled this, Talon would fix up Kankuris and create an antidote for the poison Sasori was using. While that was going on, an argument broke out between an elderly woman named Chio and a very exhausted Bake, who had been coordinating everything since the Gaara capture. He was at his wits' end, especially with old people stuck in their ways. The argument was because a leaf ninja was tending one of their top jonin and a puppet master's no less. Chio then made her way into the operating room, watching at how well Talon was doing the poison removal. In fact, it was as skillful as Tsunade, but somehow more refined. Seeing that he was finished, she spoke, saying, "What do you gain from healing our foremost puppet jutsu master since myself and Sasori? Do you think Suna will give you something in return?" "No, I don't. I healed him because he is a friend of my brother and, from what I heard, a good person. After all, that is what any medical ninja or anyone who knows how to heal would do. And finally, our villages are allies." He finished politely. "Oh, spare me that nonsense. This alliance is just proof that Suna has grown weak thanks to ideals such as your own. And what did Suna accomplish when it betrayed us in the first great ninja war and then its betrayal of us in the battle for Konoha? Absolutely nothing. I know that it was your line of thinking that made Suna the weakest of the great five. And what have you done but retire in disgrace after Tsunade outdid you time and time again, and your grandson betrayed his very home? So spare that bull about what made Suna great. Apparently, it is Gaara, who was once outcast by his own, that has made the biggest difference. He will be the one to make Suna worthy of its title in the Great Five. Not your old-time way of thinking. So if you will excuse me, I have an antidote to create." Talon said, using his Byakugan covered by a triple-layered Jinjutsu, looking at everything in the vial with a high level of scrutiny and shrewd breaking down of what made the poison so powerful. Seeing what was in it, he deduced that main component of the poison was from a rare cobra called the Red Death, ironic being used by Sasori, also known by the same title. But this snake had delayed death in its venom, which caused great pain to those exposed, and the last ingredient was a slow-acting artery killer known as ogre root. It causes the arteries to spasm and disintegrate, thus killing you slowly and painfully. Most people injected with this poison Talon, dubbed Wyvern's Blood, would most likely die from the shock of the snake venom. So for Kankuru to still be alive was a testament to his will to live. So after 20 minutes of mixing and measuring Talon, came up with an antidote he called the Heavenly Cure, and it could work with most poisons any Tsunamitic or puppeteer could come up with. Always maintain an edge. With the cure complete, he administered it quickly to Kinkuru, who was up and responding like nothing happened after he ingested it. But after quick rundown of Sasori's skills, Kinkuru passed back out. It seemed that the antidote had a side effect of making you dead tired, depending on how long you were poisoned. Seeing that his patient was resting, he turned away only to be embraced by a happy Tamari and Matsuri, who happened to be Gaara's student and girlfriend. Tamari, being the boy's older sister, was just happy to know she would still have one brother left if Gaara did not survive. And Matsuri was happy because her older brother figure would live to work her last nerve another day. Then Naruto spoke after his brother, made the two young women break the embrace by saying, "You see now what we could be if we stand as one and work together. Our differences only make us targets of hatred and evil. The bridge to peace is one that will take us all to finish building and even more to maintain it. So please look past what we wear or what we look like. It matters not in the end." Naruto finished, but his words had hit their mark in each person's heart, especially Lady Chiyo, who had decided to come clean about what made Gaara target in the first place, saying, "This whole ordeal is my fault. What Gaara is being forced to endure was a mistake 17 years old. For you see, it was my suggestion to seal Shikaku into Gaara the day he was born, and it was my seal that made him so bloodthirsty and outright crazy. I, knowing how grand life is, was so willing to throw away a young boy's life like it was nothing just to say my home had a weapon. It was a mistake I feel is worse than not dealing with my grandson's obvious approaching insanity. But now it is time to rectify my mistake. So when you get the signal, I will go with you and save Gaara." Chiyo finished with a newfound conviction. Then Talon spoke up saying, "That would be wonderful and a great way to atone for past mistakes. And I believe you did not do what you did with any malice in your heart towards Gaara. Thank you, young Talon. And might I say you are a joy to watch. And you, young Naruto, I bet it all on you to make the peace you seek a reality," she said, making Naruto think of what Tsunade had told him 2 years ago. But before he could take a stroll down memory lane, he got the signal telling Talon and Chiyo to prepare to leave. In a split second, they vanished in a yellow blur. Chapter 3, The New Threat. It took the trio no time to arrive at Kiba and the other's position. What they saw when they arrived, however, shook them to the core. Holding Kiba and Niji in a vice grip around their throats was a mountain of a man. He wore an IWA headband and was what looked to be wearing a black tunic with black pants and light boots. His physical appearance made him more akin to a bodybuilder, and he had scars all over his head and neck. He was also well over 7 feet and at least 450 pounds. He had silver hair and onyx eyes. He also seemed to be rather calm, even in light of Talon and his allies. This made Talon a bit concerned. Sensing that the unknown ninja was going to kill his team, he created a shadow clone to help watch over a now noticed unconscious Gunma, who obviously been slugged in the face by said giant. Naruto, who then saw his brother with a calculating look, said, "Talon, I think we should test him. He seems like he is obviously an Earth-style user, but I want to see what else he can do." "Okay, what do you have in mind?" Tracy replied. "Well, for one, he seems to have a loose yet firm grip on our 2-tracker specialist. So I advise we free them. Secondly, we engage on 2 fronts. Me and Granny Chiyo engage him while you slip by and rescue Gaara, who is more so than not in the direction behind this brute. Sound good to you? Sure, but I believe we should ask him who he is. It's a common courtesy after all. Instead of smirking almost eagerly, he then spoke again. Hey you, what is your name? I was Iwagakure's most proficient Earth-style user and candidate for Tsuchikage. I was also known as the Walking Death. I am Toba-yun, and I was ruined by the very village you protect. So much so that when I failed to stop that Minato Namikaze and his flying thunder god technique, they banished me and I never looked back. But since I have joined the boss and have begun following his ambitions, I have a new purpose. So since I can see that one of you is related to that Namikaze bastard, I must eliminate you. And the rest, as well the alliance between the boss and the Akatsuki, cannot be allowed to fail. So you lot as well must die. And with that said, he began to squeeze his captives even further until a huge dog appeared spinning like a tornado hit Toba on the side, causing him to let go of Kiba and Niji. This opportunity allowed Talon and Naruto to engage him freely after Chiyo used her puppets to pull Kiba and Niji away from the danger. But what they realized that surprised them is that even being hit by Akamaru, it only staggered the man and caused him to release his prisoners. But he recovered so quickly, and questions about his resistance were answered when both brothers landed 2 haymakers at full strength at his face. Then end result surprised them, because now Toba was prepared to be attacked, and so prepared. When the 2 punches landed, it only made him slide exactly 1 inch. This surprised them both since his strength physically rivaled the Hashirama Senju. Seeing his chance to slip by though Talon jumped back and released his weight seals and disappeared in pure speed following Naruto's plan. Seeing him leave, Naruto smiled, hoping he would arrive in time. Naruto, knowing he was not as physically gifted as his brother, played the game of speed and maneuvering out of danger and wearing his opponent down. Naruto then took out his kunai, which Toba saw, and grew down right insane with anger. Seeing this as an advantage, Naruto waved the Hiraishin kunai in cocky motion and then threw it so fast it actually broke the sound barrier, causing a small boom to sound off in the clearing. That was when a recovered Niji and Kiba jumped on to each side of Toba. The 2 were counting on Naruto's attack so they could end him. But when Naruto reappeared, it was a sight to behold, because he had one of his most powerful wind-style attacks called the Eagle's Piercing Blade, which was a more powerful version of the Flying Swallow technique. It involved the direct use of the wrist, which is where the wind blades appear at in its highest potential. So using his close range, he swung his arm down straight, only to see Toba hold up his arms and see them turn to steel and blocking Naruto's attack cold. Shocking him completely since said attack rivaled Raikiri, known to cut through anything. The others, seeing his attack fail, jumped back in time to dodge 4 sharp spears of rock and 4 spears of metal. Seeing the ability known as steel release, and that is elements of wind, fire, and lightning. He knew he had options in offense, but his defense was lacking. And realizing his predicament, he released his weight seals and gathered sage chakra he stored in seals on his body. It was a very genius idea and paid off in the long haul. Seeing his opponent grinning and waiting for him to finish made Naruto realize this guy was so strong that he has not had a fight to push him in a long time. Naruto thought to himself, "It is my final fight with Jiraiya all over again." And what was worse is that whoever leads this man and has an equal standing with Akatsuki must be monstrous in strength. So seeing each other prepare, Naruto said, "Everyone except Niji, follow my brother. Niji, I need you here to let me know if there is any weakness to his defense. Granny Chio, I need you to fight Sasori, and Kiba, give Hanzo's mask to Talon. If this man uses poisons, he will need it even with an antidote. Now get moving." All of them said. Well, not Akamaru, who barked. Naruto, turning back to Toba, who just finished gathering his chakra, which was immense, said, "Well, Toba, you surprise me. Never have I encountered a steel release user. Bone pulse, yes, but never steel release. But that is neither here nor there, so let us begin." And without a word, he attacked with renewed fury, using his Sage Mode's strength enhancements and the ability to land hits without physically touching him. As it appeared, the giant must have studied at the Earth Temple with the warrior monks there. While using his toad-style, Naruto actually realized it to be a match for the Stonecrusher fist. But Naruto, who was doing really well, slipped up and got nailed by a serious uppercut to the head, hitting him so hard he flew across the clearing and temporarily making him blind. But in true Naruto grit, he recovered. Even blind, he listened closely and felt out his surroundings, landing softly against a tree behind him. When Naruto regained his footing, he immediately reached for his wrist seal and used the blood on his lip to summon his sickle. He then began channeling wind chakra to the blade and then proceeded to grab the chain. He then began spinning the sickle so fast, even the veteran IWA ninja could not see it. To make matters worse, the blonde ninja was gone in a yellow flash like before and popped up behind Toba with the sickle aimed to pierce the man's skull. It appeared to work, but that was when the metal-clad ninja fell only to turn into rust. Knowing that an attack was approaching, however, Niji decided to get involved and appear beside Naruto and said, "He is approaching to west of us at high speeds. His chakra signature has gone through the roof. Whatever attack he is using is going to be massive." And Niji called it right, because out from under them and to the west of them came two things. The first was Toba appearing riding a sea of steel blades. Second was that underneath them was an earthquake that made the ground rise to a height that matched that of the approaching blades. And if one looked closely at Toba, you could see he was covered in a samurai-style armor made from his steel release. This meant trying to attack him would be almost pointless going alone, and that would also leave Niji open to the blades if he failed. But seeing no other choice, he turned to Niji, who looked at Naruto, his resolve unwavering, and both gave a nod. The nod said attack and don't quit. Gripping his sickle and chain, Naruto waited about 1 second, as did Niji. Then in a blur, it was on. On Toba's side of the attack, he was utterly shocked because only Minato had done that to him, and seeing said man's son and friend doing the same actually scared him. From Naruto and Niji's angle, they timed a jump and clashed with the armored giant. In the process of attacking, Niji discovered something when he did an airborne Katen, that the steel release was actually weak to pure chakra. It was only resistant to conventional and elemental attacks. The giant, seeing the Hyuga discover his bloodline's greatest weakness, was almost petrified, because if the Hyuga could use his gentle fist and Naruto could use Rasengan, he knew he would be finished. And so it came to pass when Niji shouted to Naruto, who was now engaged against the bladed hand of Toba, who had now released his jutsu. Naruto heard Niji say, Naruto, he is weak to my gentle fist, but I cannot land my finishing attack with that first layer of armor. You loan me a Rasengan, and I will you back in palms. He said, jumping back from a volley of earth bullets fired by a clone Toba summoned from the ground. You got Niji one big ball Rasengan coming up. Naruto then disappeared in a flash and reappeared across the clearing sickle and chained back in the seal. He then formed the big ball Rasengan in hand, and when it formed, he was gone again in a flash to the shock of Toba. Naruto was in his guard arm, extended, pushing the massive chakra ball into his chest and stomach. The end result, if not for the armor, would have been staggering. But the depth of the armor was large. The attack, however, did stun him to a great degree. Seeing this, the concentrating Niji attacked, Byakugan focused and tuned for Niji, and his ultimate offensive attack called out. Gentle Fist Art, 8 trigrams, 256 palms, Tenketsu Mutilation. He then said 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palm, 64 palms, 128 palms, 8 trigrams, 256 palms. And with that, Niji did a double palm forward thrust, pushing Toba clear across the clearing, only for Toba to pierce through both shoulders when he was in midair by Naruto, who flashed in front of him to do it. Being beaten and knowing it, Toba almost laughed, saying, "Here, I am 45 years old, a veteran of war and strategy, and a war hero till I met your damn father, am defeated by his son and a Hyuga, victim to my own bloodline limits weakness. It is partially my fault and my parents' fault telling me that our bloodline was limitless on a battlefield, but my fault for believing everything I was told. Say to me a favor and tell me this. Do you believe I am worthy of my name and the skills I possessed?" He said, hope in his eyes for once in a long time, but before he could answer him, Toba and his body finally gave out. This, of course, made Naruto feel like he did in Wave Country when he fought Zabuza and Haku. Both were his enemies, but at the same time, they were his friends at the end. Like him, they were doing a job for reasons they thought were a good cause. And Toba was no different. He was enemy, and now at the end at least civil, and poured his last thoughts and feelings to him and Niji. Seeing the giant's prone body lying there with a peaceful look on his face, said, "Though I only knew you in battle, I can see you were a man of honor, distinction, and integrity, only to be cast out by your own. I'd understand that pain and sorrow, but like the mountains you were born in, you stand strong through any endeavor. So to answer your question, yes, you are worthy of your skills and the titles you obtained through the years. So rest in peaceful slumber, live your life no longer in wonder of what you are or what you aren't. Rest Kami's hands, and let your afterlife be grand." And when Naruto finished, he placed Toba in a preservation seal and decided to bury him in a grove just outside of the village where large ancient elephants used to live. In that place are the remains of those noble beasts. The breed used to be in abundance, but in the land of fire, but were killed almost to extinction by rival clans of the Senju. And it was also fitting to see a silver elephant pendant around his neck. It made the decision simple. Looking in his brother's direction, he said to Niji, "We should move to their position. Can you chart a faster route than the one they took?" "Sure, just give me a soldier pill. That attack takes a lot since I just finished it and am not at a sufficient chakra capacity to use it more than twice a day." He finished eating the pill, granting him the energy he needed. He then proceeded to see a way down a river that would grant them a faster route. On the way, they saw several different elemental jutsu flying around and several explosions. What they saw upon their arrival, however, is staggering. Flashback to Lone and company battle with Akatsuki. In front of a large cave was a barrier defended by some unknown masked ninja. The ninja were wearing a black face mask that covered their entire faces, and they wore black jumpsuits with dark gray armor plating. And the jumpsuit had red lines on each side leading down to the ankle. And on their right hips were shuriken and kunai holsters. And on their backs were dual-wield wakizashi. It was about 50 of them guarding the entrance, all standing in rows of 5. The leader stepped forward, her voice altered by some type of audio jutsu, said, "Alt, you are to turn back at once. Failure to do so will result in your immediate deaths." He finished alone, replied saying, "Well, you will be delighted to know that we will be staying and will be continuing past you." He finished, not wasting time. He signaled for Gunma, Kiba, and Granny Chio to use any wide area jutsu. Seeing what he needed to do, Talon prepared a massive fire jutsu straight out of the sage's bag of jutsu, doing about 15 hand seals, and in 5 seconds landing on the tiger seal. Talon called out, "Fire style, divine flaming destruction jutsu." And in a blaze, Talon released a wide wall of blue flames that measured out almost as wide as the wall of ninja on the other side. But the more skilled ninja in the unknown group managed to escape by substitution. The others, however, not so fortunate. Most were turned to ash upon contact. Releasing the attack, Talon and the others saw about 25 survivors scattered all over the place. Seeing they were surrounded but not at a disadvantage, Chio said, "Talon, you should proceed to the barrier across the lake. Young Kiba and Gunma, and I will deal with them." Granny Chio, "I thought you wanted to deal with your grandson?" "I changed my mind. I am too old for a fight with him. You, on the other hand, will be more than enough to handle him. Just ask for me why he disgraced his family, friends, and village. I must know. And one last thing, that body is not his true body, but a puppet named Hiriko. I would tell you what it is capable of, but he has changed it, I am sure. Just be weary of the obvious puppet style attributes, poisons, knives, hidden compartments, and such." She finished, then, throwing him a scroll Kiba had handed to her containing Hanzo's mask. Saying thank you, Talon burst through the 3 ninja that were located on his side of the lakeshore. Seeing him leave, the 3 tried to pursue, but were cut down by now wide blade axe wielding Ginma, who launched a wave of fire from the end of it, killing them easily. Talon, not looking back, steeled his resolve for a fight, not knowing how many Akatsuki or other unknown ninja that may be involved. Quickly approaching the barrier, which was see-through, Talon activated his Byakugan and looked inside the barrier. He saw 9 Akatsuki and 3 unknown ninja dressed in armor only seen in the Warring Clans era, and it seemed the strongest one had a sword that rivaled Kisame's. Not being put out by such revelations, he continued to investigate and saw the ghetto Mazo Hagoromo had told him about, and now knew why he could never access it. Someone else had summoned it. Looking closer, he saw who summoned it, some Akatsuki member, with, to his shock, had eyes like his, and an aura of oppression as large as the other unknown ninja leader was seen. Talon, after witnessing that, began to recognize the other Akatsuki members, such as Haiden, Kakazu, Sasori, Deidara, Kisame, and Itachi. The woman and the plant-like being he saw he did not know. nor did he recognize the other two men who were with the unknown leader. All he knew was that they had to all be related to the older-looking man because the chakra and facial features looked similar. Seeing only Sasori and Deidara were physically there, and that they already knew he had arrived at the barred entrance, Talon summoned a scroll and wrote a barrier disruptor seal, which attacked the barrier's four corners and chakra conducting array. Finishing in a flash, he placed the seal and did a ram seal, which activated the seal successfully. Inside, the leader of Akatsuki said to Sasori and Deidara simply,